Good afternoon, everybody. I know that I'm supposed to save 5 minutes for questions at the end. The awesome speaker that went before us went over a little bit. So I want to start with questions. I see some people I work with, but I just want to figure out why you're not at lunch and why you're here to listen to me, which I'm super grateful and thankful. I really appreciate it. So before I say a word about what Verint does or who I am or the topic, is anyone sort of not shy enough to say, here's what I want to make sure I get out of this. This is why I'm here. Any practitioners in the room that would like to go first so I can tailor this at all? If not, I'll jump right in. No? Everyone's shy? Okay. Well, I'll let you get to lunch. So Verint, real quickly, I'm the AI evangelist at Verint, which really just means my job is to be a teacher researcher. So I get the wonderful opportunity to talk to a lot of brands about conversational AI, the use of AI in contact center applications. And because of that, I learn things and then can share them back out. And conversely, right, I'm supposed to be out there sort of researching new brands, new technologies, new market wins to try to figure out how to bridge this gap. So today's topic is going to be about what if we measure conversational AI like a human call center agent? If we're being honest with ourselves, many times contact center AI applications or conversational AI is trying to do one of two things. Either prevent you from getting to a human or replacing or displacing a human. And I feel like we can do better than that, and there's an augmentation cycle where that's customer first around customer experience. And this brand that I can't mention by name, so we'll keep it non-brand, we'll keep it discreet for now, actually engaged in this. So if you don't know Verint, we essentially have listened to or monitored or watched somewhere in the neighborhood of 60% of all contact center interactions in the last 25 years. Whether that be through call recordings or live chats. So that gives us a special sort of secret sauce of credibility insofar as we've seen it all, done it all, and we're at the forefront of what's next. So along those lines, let me set the stage, and I'll go quickly because I'm realizing my timer is going to be a little bit shorter. What does this slide mean? We're spending a lot of money on labor in the contact center industry, and we're having trouble sort of bridging the gap or the calculus around, hey, we got all these agents and butts and seats, we got all these automation technologies, we have all these CRM things, and consumer expectations are going through the roof. And recession metrics will tell us brand loyalty is going down, but yet expectations are going up. And we have all these contact center agents working from home, and we have all these disparate contact center investments. We have this technology stack that's overwhelming. How do we get all that to work together? And what we at Verint have sort of distilled this world in, sort of this gap between the elevated CX expectations and those budget and resource constraints. We call it the engagement capacity gap. And so we're really in a tough place, and what we're trying to do is try to find solutions to get there. So we believe one of the ways to elevate CX is to jump into this one workforce approach, which combines conversational AI as well as live agents and that existing, let's not rip and replace everything, but let's leverage the experience, the work, the technology stack that you have, and bridge that gap. So with that as a backdrop, we're going to fast forward to, okay, so now we're using conversational AI. We're trying to bridge that gap. And what I'm contending for everyone here is, let me stimulate your thinking to try to get you to think about, and this time I'm going to ask for a show of hands. How many people in this room are contact center practitioners that have used either a chatbot, maybe you dabbled in Watson, you played with Dialogflow, or even an IVR? Anyone who's using contact center automation technologies? Okay, good show of hands. Okay, so starting with that, if you've read the OKR book, Measure What Matters, I definitely stole that from there. So when you look at intelligent virtual assistants or conversational AI right now, what people in this marketplace are saying is that, hey, 43% of folks are saying to Gartner, we need to make sure that accuracy is on point and we understand the customers, of course, right? Whether it be a voice interface or a digital or a typing interface, do we understand what the customer is asking? We want things to work smoothly with human agents rather than displace or replace them. So it's nice to see that metric. And we want a more human-sounding, natural conversation. Now, for me, this is my own personal preference. I'm not a big voice synthesizer person. I feel like it's a matter of taste. I have a horrible Philadelphia accent, so I'd hate for one to sound like me, because you might say words like water or radiator, which is the thing that emits heat from the side of the wall. I know that's crazy. So for me, human-sounding, natural conversation is more esoteric for me. It's kind of like, do you respect my intelligence? Can you tell where I came from? And can you give me what I need? More maybe than an actual voice. Come on, baby. Great. So when we think about that as a backdrop, the traditional metrics for AI in contact centers, and can I get a clap if someone uses one of these metrics? No one, okay. Trying to make it multimodal. So accuracy and errors, right? How is the AI understanding things? Containment rate, which containment rate is one of my least favorites, but it's like, it describes your customers as cattle in some ways, right? Hey, you get them in the corral, and can you keep them in there and not let them out? And we understand that there's some ROI elements in there, but where is the sort of customer experience in that? Deflection, right? Send your customers away without having to speak to a human. Abandonment, which is an old school inbound contact center metric, right? You kind of hang up, you kind of give up on the experience. And there was a time back in the dark stone ages of like DTMF IVR where abandonment was like success. If you've ever hung up on an IVR, there were actually contact center folks that were like, yep, nice, that worked. And transactions per conversation without context. So you can already tell I'm trying to skew you away from this. And I'm not saying these don't have value. They are traditional metrics that sort of give you a baseline of certain operational elements that help you buy some sophisticated solutions at times because you can tie our ROI to them. But the common threads across the metrics that are sort of the future of measuring, can conversational AI actually solve customer problems? I like to wrap them in what we sort of say is correctness and fluency. And correctness compared to accuracy, it isn't just semantics for me. It's the idea is how closely does the response align with the truth, and how smooth and effortless is the flow of this engagement. So if you have that as sort of a baseline of, all right, this is where we're going to head now when I dig deeper on the conversational AI scorecard that this brand used, we're measuring how AI is helping you get to a place, it's helping you get things done. I like to talk about all your customers want to do essentially 5 things. They want to enroll, sign up, or buy something, right? Then they want to use it or enjoy it and kind of just play around with it. Then they want to pay for it. They do actually want to pay you. They want to report if there's a problem with it, right? And then they might want to cancel or end the use of it. And that's pretty much the 5 actions, right? So I know there's some, what about getting information about the product? Some of that can be interwoven through, but those are the 5 things they're trying to do. And so with that in mind, when we're thinking about what conversational AI is trying to enable, and this is a hospitality brand that does some things in conversational AI that will remain nameless. Coherence. Do all the questions make sense to the customer in context? Context is key, right? So a lot of times in marketing we'll say personalization, but saying, hi Frank, welcome to, last night I stayed at a Moxie, which isn't this brand. Welcome to the Moxie Hotel is a lot different than saying, we noticed you engaged with our digital concierge. This is a rewards night. You're a platinum member. How about some free breakfast? That's a different kind of context in regards to where I've been, what I've done, and who I am, beyond just some sort of token personalization elements. Responsiveness. So to me, this isn't just speed, even though it says a timely manner, but it's how long does it take me to do one of those 5 things? And how does that coherence in regards to context fold into that? So let's get some stuff done. That's what this was about. This wasn't about, hey, so I have, if you think about it in terms of like, let's say dialogue flow, because a lot of people play with dialogue flow. So I built some conversation flows, I built some decision trees, I have 5,000 intents and I have 12,000 alternates, and they're 98% accurate. That's fantastic. But are you getting stuff done? Are your customers actually able to resolve things? So resolution rate, like the number of tickets assigned and the number solved within a specific period. These are the kinds of things that human agents are being measured on. When you call a human contact center agent, they're being measured on things potentially like, unfortunately, sometimes average handle time, which most contact centers say, well, that will dictate how long it took this agent to get to your answer. Or maybe overall for that group, they'll look at resolution rate or first call resolution rate. Could you solve it without having to have the customer contact back in? But oftentimes with AI, we're not doing that. But if we want to look at the resolution rate, the task completion rate, it's similar to a human-to-human interaction. I've been very fortunate to work at 2 conversational AI startup companies before I wound up at Verint, where I'm very happy in my new home. But across the breadth of that experience, I actually engaged with one brand that stacked us up as a BPO vendor. So BPO, business process outsourcers, who think outsourced call centers. A lot of people will outsource their call center either near shore or even onshore. And they said, hey, these outsourced call centers get bonuses based on how many wireless devices they can upsell on a support call. So you call in for some issue, but then, hey, we're going to push the new iPhone 12 or something like that. Let's hold the AI to that same bonus structure. So someone chats to the AI, and it might sound, if you haven't engaged in this space, intuitive, but it's actually a huge wall and line of demarcation many times between the people who run labor outsourced call centers and the digital technology investments to even look at those things in the same way. And to me, whether or not your accuracy is 92% to 96%, that conversation needs to happen, in my opinion, right? So as an evangelist, we need to start talking about getting stuff done, because as you sort of play with that curve to get, I mean, Microsoft says that transcription services are human parity already. It's like already over. If you think about what transcription, when you speak to the microphone on your phone, is meant to do, it's a court stenographer. Think about court stenographer. Sits in the corner of the courtroom, just types out whatever's being said. Read that back to me. And Mike reads back what the court stenographer wrote down. Mike doesn't provide any context or any interpretation of what's occurring or anything in depth in regards to where we've been and where we're headed. It's just rote giving it back. And traditionally, a lot of times in voice AI, that's what systems are doing. They're just transcribing and pushing to another system, and there's some inherent latency and mismatching there. But if you're properly leveraging context, like from the previous slide, now task completion, when it's a little more complex and a little more nuanced, can still be resolved even when maybe there's an accuracy mix, right? No call center agent is getting fired if they say, you know what, can you please explain a little more to me about that situation? And then they get to the resolution because they receive some more context on the solution. And it's the same thing for AI. So thinking about outcomes is of paramount importance when you're thinking about scoring conversational AI. Measure easy, right? You know, coming from startup life, you know, I used to joke, every software company startup in the world is either doing one of two things, replacing a human or replacing Excel. But the theme of both of those things is make it easy, and we need to measure easy. So, you know, the challengers, sale people, and the CEB, all those folks, and Matt Dixon started pushing people. If you remember that Harvard Business Review report about don't delight your customers anymore, it's about customer effort score, and that pendulum has been batted back and forth. But the reality is measuring easy is still a lovely place for us to be. So there was a time, I'll say, in 2014 when AI played the role of almost traffic cop or URL distributor, which is not necessarily a place where we should be anymore. So if I come to a conversational AI system, a digital concierge, and I say, I want to know more about X, saying, here's the URL where you do this, clearly I didn't need AI to send me to that URL, right? And I think that for us at this point, people who are practitioners in this space, we need to stop accepting that as a solution. So I'm going to be a little bit preachy there, because the reality is that's not reducing customer effort. And 9 times out of 10, if you've popped a survey in there, they're probably a little bit annoyed that, you know, I probably could have found that URL on my own. I'm actually asking for a more nuanced thing to get done, not to make it simple. So, you know, it has to feel like your business is valued, right? Just like you would for a contact center agent. Don't overwhelm with tons of information. Just get to the point. Hey, does this property have a pool? Yes, it does. Here's a picture of it. Is it heated? Yep, it's heated. And we knew all that from the API to deliver that. And you launched it from the page in this example. So it didn't even have to say, you know, a lot of times in older chatbots. So here I am in Google Maps. Start engaging with the AI right from Google Maps. I don't have to switch channel. Talk about context is key. Hey, does this have a pool? And again, I'm tilted towards Philly, so apologies. So, you know, yeah, it does have a pool, and you can ask additional questions. And then I want to book a room close to the pool. Now, if I would have booked a room that maybe was easier to automate based on business rules, and the business wanted to automate, I would have automated it. But in this instance, because it knows who I am. It knows I'm a platinum ambassador or whatever my tag is. And it knows I want to be close to a pool. That's a very specific request that they need a human to help get involved with. Now, again, customer effort. When I get over to this human, don't channel switch me. Now let me type to the human. Have that AI, you know, I always say walk it over to the cubicle. Don't go away. Now it's more passive in the background, listening, even if it's typing. And now we can help insert elements to the contact center agent to help the human do their job instead of replacing them to say, hey, pick up the reservation from here. Let's book it. Frank stayed here 3 months ago. When he stayed, he was in room 412. It was right near the pool. Let's put him in that one again. Beautiful, right? So again, customer effort. How hard was it to get the thing done from the previous slide? How hard was it to get the answer? And do you have inauthentic lines of demarcation that are a reflection of maybe, channel technology stack implications for sure could be something that maybe you're not ready to solve for yet based on budgetary constraints. But if it's just based on sort of the actual conversation design, that's something that's easy to fix. But if you start with thinking of those metrics, you're going to make sure that you're ahead of the game. Let me look at my time. Okay, I got to speed up. Align with business OKRs and KPIs. So CSAT score is great, right? But even CSAT score, especially with where we're headed economically right now, I'm curious to learn next year with the economic choices that some people are going to be faced with, how does CSAT impact the way analysts look at it, brand loyalty, retention, upsells, and all those kinds of things. But ultimately, whatever your contact center labor KPIs and OKRs are, or whatever your business strategy is for revenue generation, retention, churn, average spend per customer, those things should be included in an AI investigation. It has to dovetail into that. If you're deflecting and containing everyone agnostic of those business goals, you're kind of engaging in, right now, some stuff that could wind up being malpractice for you as far as measuring that solution. You're going to be constantly swapping out conversational AI vendors, chasing 2 points of accuracy that maybe doesn't mean anything, right? And we're beyond that, right? So I'm sure we've all had a bad chatbot experience, but the reality is we're beyond that in this market right now and can do better. So here's the scorecard, because I have to leave 5 minutes for questions. And this is the actual scorecard that the brand used. And, a lot of today's presentations have been quantitative, AKA numbery. This is much more qualitative or feelingsy, right? This is a little bit more subjective. However, if your AI is tuned in a way that's trying to achieve business outcomes, this doesn't become subjective. It becomes data-driven, like properly verifying a customer, starting the call appropriately, which there's an actual sort of conversation design prompt that goes beyond how may I help you. Ability to handle rate resistance. I love that. So the AI says, I can book you at the best flexible rate, which I assure you is a discount. But maybe the customer's thinking, maybe I might want to go to Orbitz, or wait, I'm Diamond. Hey, do you got any points plus cash stuff? So when you recognize they still want to book, but there's rate resistance, how can the virtual assistant close the sale? So when you get a diagnostic and you get a transaction report or a conversational view of one of these interactions, you can say, oh, here's the moment. We're not offering an upsell here. And this was rate resistance. They went away, or they escalated to a human. How about the bot could have, or the digital concierge could have offered a promotion right then? Hey, who here is a brand sort of loyalty program for a hotel? If you're in one of the most annoying things is when they tell you to register for something, but you don't click on the email, and then you miss some promotion because the marketing team wanted to get that click on the email promotion they sent out, but you're not automatically registered. This is one of those perfect examples where, hey, you signed up for our 20 days and 3 months promo, and you hadn't signed up for it, but how about click here and you're on it now, and now we'll give you a better rate. So I'm going to pause there because I'm right about my question time. But I hope that provided some value to the people in the room and was better than snagging a sandwich already. Any questions from anyone? Yes, sir. That's a great question. And I feel like for myself and in the consulting and brands that I've worked with and what I've learned from folks is things that commonly called like sentiment analysis, right? And oftentimes in voice, it has more of an application than in digital. So if I'm okay, can I stay in voice for a little bit as opposed to digital? Does that work for you? So in voice, a lot of times, think about some of the things that some of the voice biometric people have released and some of these language models that are based on audio and phonetic patterns that relate to emotion. And you can tell a customer is irate. In my opinion, in brands that I've consulted with, sentiment analysis is definitely a post-call engagement. If you think about sort of the hypothesis that customers are trying to do 5 things, and you're trying to design conversations to reduce friction, if a customer calls in and they're pissed because they signed up for a points plus cash rate, but they got billed the full rate was $500, right? It's a billing issue. The VA already knows there's a billing issue to solve, and you can have nice conversational design tenets like, simple empathy expressions in the response. That part's easy. I think the more nuanced thing is, what about when the AI is doing something like an agent assist technology, so helping the contact center agent while they're on the phone, which is one of my favorite use cases. Their sentiment for a contact center agent could actually interfere with the engagement, right? Because then you're telling the contact center agent, customer calls up and, I can't believe you did this, pain in the, whatever. And hey, this customer's irate. Like that, during an interaction with a live human, we would say, put the sentiment aside. But as far as using sentiment to influence an interaction, to me it comes in 2 pieces. It comes in conversational design tenets and how you're sort of, creating that experience and that interaction. And conversation designers are just, that's a job that's going to be just, it's already kind of escalating through the roof, but it's going to continue to go, sort of people working on these AI systems. And the second piece is post-call. I think post-call interaction sentiment has incredible value, because then it's, all right, how can we make it sound more empathetic next time? Sometimes in real-time sentiment, you run into, it's almost the same kind of accuracy thing. There becomes a weird subjective or quantitative versus qualitative almost argument over language modeling in when is someone sarcastic, right? And like, let's not do sarcasm. Like let's focus on getting the stuff done, and maybe I tend to be super sarcastic because where I grew up, maybe they'll be sarcastic but happy. So it gets to be challenging. Was that helpful?
Yeah, it was helpful. And I guess my follow-up on that.
Yeah. In my experience, and I want to learn more, I saw brands really wanting to adopt it like 2 to 3 years ago. And then some newer technologies trying to meet that market and realizing the applications quite weren't, the juice wasn't worth the squeeze kind of thing. Like it just wasn't quite delivering the value that they expected or as magical as they expected. I think the future is bright for it. And I think the future is bright for it with the advent of where conversation design is heading. And again, sort of tying up to that post-call analytics. And again, if you have an AI solution in place or an AI strategy that doesn't look at it as linear, but looks at it as a circle, before the human agent, during the human agent, after the human agent, and wash, rinse, repeat, as opposed to deflection, barriers, linear path, I think then sentiment is going to become more important as you're sort of creating that language modeling. But someone could certainly disagree with me on that for sure. That's just what I've seen. Yep. Yes, sir.
Hi, is this on? Oh,
there you go.
Very much on. I just want to go a little bit further on, because you brought up the fidelity programs and sort of the VIPs and so on.
Yeah.
Do you foresee that brands would be keen to develop virtual assistants only for that categories of clients, mirroring a little bit what we see with, I'm a Bonvoy member, and you've got the Bonvoy desk, you have the Bonvoy special number, depending where you are. Or, no, that's where you want a human to be involved from the get-go. What do you see in the market?
saying both. Yeah, so I'm having these conversations right now with hospitality brands where some folks are taking it as far as in-stay. In-stay is a great moment to have AI help with a luxury brand, especially because you can sort of invite them to proactively handle tasks that are upcoming, or offer them sort of sweet nuggets while they're there and stay. So you get a quick text message or you get a note through the app, and making sure that is customized and handled the right way. AI actually helps with that, but still having a human behind it. But I've definitely had consultations with hospitality brands where they're like, oh, especially brand, how like Marriott, like how many brands do they have? It's like 40 brands.
It's probably 30, 40.
Yeah, it's something ridiculous, right? And so they're always acquiring a new hotel chain, like IHG just acquired this thing called, I think it's called Six Senses or something, these beautiful, like, stay in a castle in Portugal and stuff like that, and now it's connected. And the default setting right now in that marketplace is still luxury, hold on with AI. And it's because of that, that sort of stereotype of sort of bad chatbot experiences that we're all influenced by. And it's fair in a way, if we're being honest. But if we think about sort of what I'm trying to sort of get people to think about here, if you're taking this kind of approach and you're not trying to just contain everyone, deflect everyone, but you're trying to provide some friction reduction for those guests, and you have a luxury experience designed, then I think we can get there. So I'm starting to see it head in the other direction, but it's still super early. But it's a great question. I definitely have a lot, but to me, it's about in-stay. I think that's where luxury starts, is how to make in-stay more enjoyable with some proactive AI offers or some context-based.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you. Great question. I'm super over, and you all are probably hungry. Does anyone else have a question? I really appreciate the engagement because it makes it more fun. It's really boring if I'm up here just talking at people. My name is, let me see. So this is me before pandemic beard and probably a little bit more hair. But this is me. Feel free to email me. I'm a nerd for this stuff. I geek out over it. I'm happy to talk to you or help. And I'm not going to pitch you anything either. So we're just going to talk about, it's my job to learn, especially I love hearing the stories of scar tissue. Like, hey, this is, right, those are more valuable than success sometimes. Although we're now getting to the place where we're starting to see some more success. So sorry I went over. Thank you all. I really appreciate it. Thank you.